Let me check. Just a second, guys. Let me check if the stream is live or not. Just a second, guys. Let me check if the stream is live or not. Okay, it's live. Sorry. Okay, cool. So hi, we are back again here, and so I was not feeling sleepy, and I had to read this book. It was left to read, so I wanted to read. It's a pretty thin book. So the book is. Wait, I'll show it here. Yeah, this is the scene two. Okay, it should not look like this. Yeah, cool. Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Cool. I have my pencil and eraser sharpener here with me to underline, mark things, and yeah, this is scene 2 and this is scene 1. This is me. Cool. Uh, I'm sweating a lot because I made tea for myself in this cup and I'm drinking it. Okay, and I'll be also wearing my specs. Cool. Uh, let's start. I'll start reading this book and I'll also mark. Okay, so I'm feeling a bit hot. Why? Because of the caffeine in this tea. Okay, Ray Bradbury's gift for storytelling reshaped our culture and explained our world. Said Barack Obama, Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Okay, so one context which I know uh, already is at this temperature the pages start burning. Okay, should I put my name on this book? Okay, let's put the name and the date. Okay, so Shreyash, 16th September 4. Okay, Shreyash, 16th September 2024. Cool. Okay. Uh, so yeah, let's start. Fahrenheit 451, one of the greatest science fiction and fantasy writers of all time. Ray Bradbury was born in Waukegan, Illinois in 1920. He moved with his family to Los Angeles in 1934. Okay. Since his story appeared in Weird Tales when he was 24 years old, he has published some 500 short stories, novels, plays, scripts, and poems. Among his many famous works are Fahrenheit 451, The Illustrated Man, and The Martian Chronicles. Ray Bradbury died in 2012 at the age of 91. Cool, that is good. Oh, am I in? Oh, sorry, I was blocking the camera. So, this was the first page. Is there a way to see the chat too? Mm, I don't know if there is. Wait, let me see. Okay, I'll keep on switching between. Mm, I'll keep on looking for the chat. I don't think at this time anyone 2:12 a.m. Anyone would be watching. So okay, so this guy wrote around 500 stories. So sorry, man. I should not keep my hand like this. 500 short stories, novels, plays, scripts, and poems. Cool. Okay. The Illustrated Man and The Martian Chronicles. Cool, cool. Also by uh, Bradbury. Ahmad and the Oblivion Machine, The Anthem Sprinters. Is it visible to you guys? Yeah, I think this is fine. Bradbury Speaks, Bradbury Stories, The Cat Pajamas, Dandelion Wine, Dark Carnival. Okay, I think these are not sorted alphabetically. Might be, I don't know. Might be in the order they were released. These are sorted. Okay, cool. Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Okay, I really need to get a new camera for this. You guys are not able to see this. This one with gratitude. I think at this height you guys are able to see. This one with gratitude is for Don Congdon. Okay, cool. Is it visible? Oh. Fahrenheit 451. The temperature at which book paper catches fire and burns. Cool. A bit gloomy or dark. If they give you ruled paper, write the other way. Juan Ramon Jimenez. Okay. If they give you ruled paper, write the other way. Might be rebellion. I don't know. Or not to follow the rule. Or materialistic world. I don't know. Introduction to the 50th anniversary edition by Ray Bradbury, March  12, 2003. What is there new to be said about Fahrenheit 451? I have written 3 to 4 introduction in the past 30 years to explain where past 30 years to explain where the novel came from and how it finally arrived. The first thing to be said is that I feel very fortunate to have survived long enough to join with people who have been paying attention to the novel in this past year. The novel was a surprise then and is still a surprise to me. Okay, so I think he's writing after releasing very long back. Okay, cool. I've always written at the top of my lungs and from some secret motives within. I have followed the advice of my good friend Federico Fellini, who, when asked about his work, said, "Don't tell me what I'm doing. I don't want to know." Cool. The grand thing is to plunge. The grand thing is to plunge ahead and see what your passion can reveal. During the past 50 years, I have written a short 25,000 word early version of the novel entitled The Fireman, which appeared in Galaxy Science Fiction magazine, and several years later added another 25,000 words for its publication by Ballantine Books. Occupying a house with a new baby daughter, we had to consider my trying to find somewhere that was a bit quieter to do my work. Okay. I had no money at that time to rent an office, but wandering around UCLA one day I heard typing in the basement of the library and went down to see what was going on. Sorry if it's not visible. Not paying attention at the cameras. Sorry. Okay. What was going on? I found that there was a room with 12 typewriters that could be rented for 10 cents per hour. Excited at the prospect, I bought a bag of times with me and moved into the typing room. Okay, cool. A bag of dimes with me. I don't know what that means. I found that okay, typewriter converted for 10. Oh, so this is for paying them hourly or half hour. Okay, cool. Got it. And moved into the typing room. I didn't know students were writing, what the various students were writing, and their typewriters, and they hardly knew. Nor did I know what I was writing. Okay, cool. If there is any excitement to the novel at all, I think it can best be explained by the fact that every 2 hours or so during the next week and the half I ran up and downstairs and in and out of the stacks grabbing books off the shelves trying to find proper quotes to put in the book. I'm not a researcher and my memory is not all that accurate for things I have read in the past. So the quotes that you find in the book were those wonderful accidents where pulling a book off the shelf and reopening it just anywhere at all I found an amazing sentence or paragraph that could occupy a position in the novel. Okay, cool. Sorry, no, it was not visible. In the novel, this early version took exactly 9 days and I spent $9.80 on it, not realizing that the book had some sort of long life ahead. In the years since its publication, I have written a full 2 act play and spent 2 summers in Connecticut writing an opera based on its text. The book seems to have a life that goes on recreating itself. Okay, if I try to find its genesis in the years prior to 1950, it's visible or not? Yeah, I think it's visible. 1950. If I show it here, would it be visible? Ah, it's visible. Very good, actually. Okay, you guys can tune into the audio. 1950. I would imagine Genesis. I think Genesis means uh, the starting. Wait, let me check. Genesis. Genesis. I think where it starts. Sorry, I have very weak origin or mode of formation or something. Yeah, I remember from that movie called Terminator Genesis. I think where it all started. The it was shown that start of something. Cool. I wrote Genesis start of something. Formation start. Okay, cool. Okay, I'll wear my specs. What? Hey, is it catching? Oh, I didn't know that it had this feature. Damn, unnecessary features. I thought somebody disliked my video. Hey, how is it getting disliked, bro? I didn't do this. I did this. Cool. I think it is Mac OS. Okay, cool. If I try to find its genesis in years prior to 1950, I would imagine one would turn to certain stories like Burning Bright and a few other tales that appeared in my early books. Okay, so he has been contemplating the story since his early works. He might be thinking of it and all. The main thing to call attention to is the fact that I have been a library person all my life. I sold newspapers until I was 22 and had no money to attend college, but I spent 3 or 4 nights a week at the local library and fed on books over a long period of time. Hey, this reminds me of that movie called Goodwill Hunting. Okay. Uh, at a local library and fed on books over a long period of time. Some of my early stories tell of librarians and book burners and people in small towns finding way to memorize the book so that if they were burned they had some sort of immortality. This is cool. The main surprise for the book occurred when I wrote the short story The Pedestrian in 1949. I had been accosted by the police one night while I was walked on a Los Angeles street with a friend. I was I sorry. I had been accosted by the police one night while I walked on a Los Angeles street with a friend. Accosted. I don't know the meaning of this. Sorry, I have to search. A-double-C-O. I think to arrest or something. Accosted. Confronted. Oh, to mean like to confront or talk. Okay. In Hindi, it's called tokna. So, A-double-C-O-S-T-E-D. Confrontation. Okay. The police with a friend. The police wanted to know what we were doing. When walking was our aim and talking occupied us, I was so irritated by being stopped and asked about walking that I went home and wrote the story The Pedestrian concerning a future where pedestrians were arrested for using the sidewalks. Dystopian view, but sometime later I took the pedestrian for a walk and when he turned a corner he encountered a young girl named Clarice McCallan who took a deep breath and said, I know who you are from the smell of kerosene. You are the man who burns books. 9 days later, the novel was finished. Okay, so he is writing how he used to get ideas to write his books and stories. Basically, getting inspired by the things happening in his life, like writing about librarians, an event that happened with him when he was working. I think he gave a year also. Yeah, 949. So around this time. Cool. What a wonderful experience it was to be in the library basement to dash up and down the stairs. Reinvigorating. Reinvigorating. Okay, I don't know the meaning of that word. Sorry. We'll get better eventually. Rein. What? Where is the spelling? Reinvigorating. Vi give energy or strength. The stairs. Oh, so like reinvigorating means vigor or to recharge yourself. Fill up energy. Fill up energy. Okay, so he might be drinking some juice or having food for all that. Okay, invigorating myself with the touch and the smell of books that I knew and the books that I did not know until that moment. Okay, when the first version of the novel was finished, I hardly knew that what I had done. I knew that it was crammed with metaphors, but the word metaphor had not occurred to me at that time in my life. It was only later in time when I got to know the world and realized that my capacity for collecting metaphors was so complete. Okay. In the years of writing my two-act play and the opera that followed, I let my characters tell me things about their lives that were not in the book. I have been tempted to go back and insert these truths in the old text, but this is a dangerous practice which writers must refuse. These truths, while important, could ruin a work done year before. Uh, so I think this basically means that he, the way he used to imagine his characters, uh, he, they were basically alive for him. He must think of them, how doing, talk to them might be. We'll find out. In writing the play, my fire chef, chief, sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, my fire chief, Betty, told me why he had become a book burner of books. He had once been a wanderer of libraries and a lover of the finest literature in history. But when real life diminished him, when friends died, when a love failed, when these two, when there were many deaths and accidents surrounding him, he discovered that his faith in books had failed because they could not help him when he needed the help. Okay, Beatty. Why he became a book burner? Okay, cool. Turning on them, he lit a match, so that that is one of the fine things that came out of the play and the opera. I'm glad to be able to speak of it now and tell you what Beatty had in his background. After the book was published in the following years, I've had I have had hundreds of letters from readers asking me what became of Clarice McCallan. Okay, that girl who smelled this thing, kerosene. They were so intrigued with this fascinating, strange, and quixotic girl. Okay, quixotic, chaotic. I think X is silent because here also X is silent. Wait, let me search chaotic. Extremely idealistic, unrealistic, or impractical. How is it?
Quixotic.
Quixotic, sorry. Quixotic. Spell. Eccentric, quixotic, idealistic. QUIXO. Quixotic. Extremist. Idealistic. Unrealistic, or that is unrealistic. It's a quixotic behavior and impractical. Okay, and impractical. Cool. Quixotic. I got quixotic right. Okay, I wrote quixotic meaning that they wanted to believe that somewhere out in the wilderness with the book she had somewhat survived. I resisted the temptation to bring her back to life in future editions of my novel. I left it to Francois Truffaut. Francois Truffaut and his film version of Fahrenheit 451 in 1966 to give Clarice a return to life. Okay, wait, I am thirsty. There is tea left, but I don't want to drink. It's giving me heartburn. Okay, so I think there has been a movie also, Frank White for 1966. Even though he had changed her name and given her extra years of maturity, which at the time I thought was a great mistake, but she did survive to the end of the film, and at that time I decided that Truffaut was correct. When I wrote the first version of the play, I allowed Clarice to survive among the book people in the wilderness. The same practice occurred when I wrote the opera. She was too wonderful a character to be allowed to die, and I realize now that I should have allowed her to appear at the end of my book. Okay, so he is going back to the same thing that sometimes you talk to the character and you want to edit or amend the works you published in the past, but it's a bad practice. That being said, the book is complete and untouched. I will not go back and revise anything. I have a great respect for the young man that I was when I sat down in that basement room with a bag of dimes and plunged into the passionate activity that resulted in the final work. So, here, after 50 years, is Fahrenheit 451. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm glad that it was done. Very good. Part 1, the hearth and the salamander. What is hearth? Salamander, I know, is a reptile lizard kind of thing. So, hearth, what is hearth? The floor of a fireplace. Floor of a fireplace. Okay. Furnace, where the molten metal collects. Hmm. The hearth and the salamander. In Hindi, it's called chulha. Salamanders, amphibian, chipkali kind of thing. Okay, very interesting part one title of thing. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to one. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed, with the brass nozzle in his fist, with this great python spitting its venom kerosene upon the world, the blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor, playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history. With his symbolic helmet numbered 451 on his stolid head, and his eyes all orange flame with the thought of what came next. He flicked the igniter, and the horse jumped up in a gorging fire that burned the evening sky red and yellow and black. He strode in a swarm of fireflies. He wanted above all, like the old joke, to shove a marshmallow on a stick in the furnace. Okay, I don't know what this joke is. Fireflies here means that a small black shoot that goes up light. It's also lit, so it looks like it's small insects, fireflies. Stolid, this word I need to check what the stolid means. I don't know. Might be something like strong or stiff or without emotion. Yeah, it is calm, dependable, showing little emotion or animation. Stolid. Stolid. Calm, dependable, showing no emotion. Okay, cool. Okay, so somebody I think is burning. It's describing someone having that brass stick kerosene waving it around. Let's keep on reading faster. While the flapping pigeon winged books died on the porch and lawn of the house, while the books went up in sparkling rills and blew away on a wind turned dark with burning, Montague grinned the fierce grin of all men, singed and driven back by flame. Okay, let me read this again. Montague grinned. Okay, so Montague is the name I think of the guy. Grinned the fierce grin like this of all men, singed and driven back by flame. Okay, so I think people were shouting or singing, and he was like orchestrating this whole thing, and flame was giving them power, driven back by flame. He knew what he knew that he returned to the firehouse. He might wink at himself, a minstrel man, burned, croaked in the mirror. Later, going to sleep, he would feel the fiery smile gripped by his face muscles. Fairy smile. Okay, so I'll keep on. I have to check minstrel, burn, croaked. Okay. Burn, croaked. Hmm. Minstrel. Okay. He knew that he returned to the firehouse. He might wink at himself, a minstrel man, burned, croaked in the mirror. Later, going to sleep, he would feel the fiery smile cried by his face muscles in the dark. It never went away. That smile, it never ever went away, as long as he remembered. Okay. He hung up his black beetle colored helmet and shined it. He hung his flame-proof jacket neatly. He showered luxuriously and then, whistling, hands in pockets, walked across the upper floor of the fire station and fell down the hole. What? At the last moment, when disaster seemed positive, he pulled his hand from his pocket and broke his fall by grasping the golden pole. He slid to a squeaking halt, the heels 1 inch from the concrete floor downstairs. He walked out of the fire station and along the midnight street toward the subway where the silent air propelled train slid soundlessly down its lubricated flue in the earth and let him out with a great puff of warm air on the cream tiled escalator rising to the suburb. Hmm, I think this guy jumped from the chimney. Okay, so minstrel. Minstrel meaning. Let me check if there are. Okay, so some was. Hi, I think someone deleted their message. I don't know why. Bhat. What is Bhat? Kavi. Oh, so people who sing, I think. A medieval singer or musician, especially one who sang or recited lyric of heroic poetry to a musical accompaniment for the nobility. So this means minstrel man. So minstrel means people who sing. S-T-R-A. Uh, Singer or musician. singer or musician for heroic context. I'll write this context. Any other word? Corked. I don't know what corked is. Tainted, musty, burnt, corked. Okay. Hey, hey, hi, sensei. How are you? Okay, there is a lag with this thing. But yeah, hi. You can talk to me. I'll keep on reading though. I don't know how to reduce the latency of this thing. It might be in when I would have set up the broadcast, but anyways, let's move on. Hello, hello, sensei. Can I resume reading? Okay, I'll open my chat here. Okay, I'll read this thing again. He walked out of the fire station and along the midnight street toward the subway where the silent air propelled train slid soundlessly down its lubricated flue in the earth and let him out with a great puff of warm air and on the cream. Oh yeah, hi. Okay, cool, sensei. I read your message. Of warm air on the cream tiled escalator rising to the suburb. Okay, so I think he might be in some subway and he's coming from this escalator. Whistling, he let the escalator. Okay. Whistling, he let the escalator waft him into the still night air. He walked toward the corner, thinking little at all about nothing in particular before he reached the corner. However, he slowed. Sorry. Before he reached the corner, however, he slowed as if a wind had sprung up from nowhere, as if someone had called his name. The last few nights, he had the most uncertain feelings about the sidewalk just around the corner here. Moving in the starlight toward his house, he had felt that a moment before his making the turn, someone had been there. The air seemed changed with a special calm as if someone had waited there quietly and only a moment before he came simply turned to a shadow and let him through. Okay? Perhaps his nose detected a faint perfume, perhaps the skin on the backs of his hand on his face felt the temperature rise at this one spot where the person standing might raise the immediate atmosphere 10 degrees for an instant. Okay, cool. There was no understanding it. Each time he made the turn, he saw only the white, unused, buckling sideway. White, I think, is referring to there being snow. Okay, with perhaps on one night something vanishing swiftly across the lawn before he could focus his eyes or speak. Ah. But now tonight he slowed almost to a stop, his inner mind reaching out to turn the corner for him, had heard the faintest whisper, breathing, Or was the atmosphere compressed merely by someone standing very quietly there, waiting? He turned the corner. The autumn leaves blew over the moonlit pavement. Okay. In such a way as to make the girl who was moving there seem to a sliding walk seem fixed to a sliding walk. Okay, in such a way that ways as to make the girl who was moving there seem fixed to a sliding walk. Okay, why is that so? The okay, 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 ठीक है. पत्तियां हैं इसके हिसाब से like the wind were wind was being blown and the leaves were moving in such a way that the girl who was moving seemed to being fixed on a sliding walk, letting the motion of the wind and the leaves carry her forward. Okay, cool. Her head was half bent to watch her shoes stir the circling leaves. Okay. Her face was slender and milk white, and in it was a kind of gentle hunger that touched over everything with tireless curiosity. Slender, I know it's being thin and of like small shape, not doughy or big. Okay, with tireless curiosity. It was a look almost of pale surprise. The dark eyes were so fixed to the world that no move escaped them. Okay, I have to focus here. It was a look almost of pale surprise. The dark eyes were so fixed to the world that no move escaped them. Her dress was white and it whispered. He almost thought he heard the motion of her hands as she walked, and the infinitely small sound now, the white stir of her face turning when she discovered she was a moment away from a man who stood in the middle of the pavement waiting. The trees overhead made a great sound of letting down their dry rain. Okay, dry rain, I think, is leaves falling. The girl stopped and looked as if she might pull back in surprise, but instead stood regarding Montag with eyes so dark and shining and alive that he felt he had said something quite wonderful, but he knew his mouth had only moved to say hello. And then she seemed hypnotized by the salamander on his arm and the phoenix disc on his chest. He spoke again. What is phoenix disc? Of course, he said. You are the new neighbor, aren't you? And you must be. She raised her eyes from his professional symbols, the fireman. Her voice trailed off. How oddly you say that. I'd have known it with my eyes shut, she said slowly. What? The smell of kerosene, my wife always complains. He laughed. You never wash it off completely. No, you don't, she said in awe. He felt she was walking in a circle about him, turning him end to end, shaking him quietly and emptying his pockets without once moving herself. Kerosene, he said, because silence had lengthened is nothing but perfume to me. Okay, okay, now he's trying to have a conversation. Does it seem like that really? Of course, why not? Okay, This is being said by that lady, and he replied, "Of course, why not?" She gave herself time to think of it. I don't know. She turned to face the sidewalk going toward their homes. "Do you mind if I walk back with you?" I'm Clarice McCallan. Cool. Hi, Clarice. Clarice. Guy Montag. Come along. What are you doing out so late wandering around? How old are you? They walked in the warm, blowing night on the silvered pavement, and there was the faintest breath of fresh apricots and strawberries in the air. And he looked around and realized this was quite impossible so late in the year. Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. How were strawberries and apricots in the air? There was only one girl walking with him now, her face bright as snow in the moonlight, and he knew she was working his questions around, seeking the best answer she could possibly give. Possibly give. Okay. Hmm. Well, she said, "I'm 17 and I'm crazy. My uncle says the two always go together." Okay, cool. When people ask your age, he said, "always say 17 and insane." ठीक है. Isn't this a time to nice time of night to walk? I like to smell things and look at things and sometimes stay up all night walking and watch the sunrise. They walked on again in silence and finally she said thoughtfully, "You know, I'm not afraid of you at all." ठीक है, cool. He was surprised. "Why should you be? So many people are afraid of firemen. I mean, but you are just a man after all." He saw himself in her eyes, suspended in two shining drops of bright water, himself dark and tiny, in fine details the lines about his mouth. Everything there, as in her eyes, were two miraculous bits of violet amber that might capture and hold him intact. Okay. Her face, her face, turned to him now, was fragile milk crystal with a soft and constant light in it. It was not the hysterical light of electricity, but what? But the strangely comfortable and rare, gently flattering light of the candle. One time, when he was a child, in a power failure, his mother had found and lit a last candle, and there had been a brief hour of rediscovery, of such illumination that space lost its vast dimensions and drew comfortably around them. And they, mother and son, alone transformed, hoping that the power might not come on again too soon. And then Clarice McKellen said, okay. Also, this is nice, him reminiscing about his past, like remembering his past, how it was with his mother. It might come back in context later in the story. "Do you mind if I ask, how long have you worked at being a fireman?" Okay, he replied, "Since I was 20, 10 years ago." He's 30 right now. "Do you ever read any of the books you burn?" He laughed. "That's against the law." "Oh, of course." Okay, so she replied, "Oh, of course. It's law. It's fine work. Monday, burn Millay. Wednesday, Whitman." Oh my god, why are they burning Whitman? "Friday, Faulkner. Burn them to ashes. Then burn the ashes. That's our official slogan." They walked still further, and the girl said, "Is it true that long ago firemen put fires out instead of going to start them?" What is this? Is this a dystopian world? It's reminding me of 1980 a lot. No, houses have always been fireproof. Take my word for it. Strange. I heard once that a long time ago houses used to burn by accident and they needed firemen to stop the flames. He laughed. She glanced quickly over. Why are you laughing? I don't know. He started to laugh again and stopped. Why? You laugh when I haven't been funny and you answer right off. You never stop to think what I have asked you. He stopped walking. You are an odd one, he said, looking at her face. Haven't you any respect? I don't mean to be insulting. It's just I love to watch people too much, I guess. Okay, 17 and insane. Cool. Well, doesn't this mean anything to you? He tapped the numerals 451 stitched on his char colored sleeve. Okay, so I think this is a squad specially designed to burn books. How sad. Yes, she whispered. She increased her pace. Have you ever watched the jet cars racing on the boulevards down that way? You're changing the subject. I sometimes think drivers don't know what grass is or flowers because they never see them slowly. She said, if you showed a driver a green blur, oh yes, he'd say that's grass. A pink blur, that's a rose garden. White blurs are houses. Okay, I think this is because they are driving so fast, everything seems to be a blur. Brown blurs are cows. My uncle drove slowly on a highway once. He drove 40 miles an hour and they jailed him for 2 days. Isn't that funny and sad too? Okay, so I think that this is all world building. You think too many things, said Montag uneasily. बहुत सोचते हो तुम. I I rarely watch the parlor walls or go to the races of fun parks, so I have lots of time for crazy thoughts. I guess. Have you seen the 200-foot long billboards in the country beyond town? Didn't you know that once billboards were only 20 feet long? 200-foot long, oh my god. But cars started rushing by so quickly that they had to stretch the advertising out so it would last. Okay, I didn't knew that. Montag laughed abruptly. Okay, so in this world, cars are required to drive very fast. If you drive slow, you will be jailed, like Clarice's uncle. Okay, cool. But I know something else you don't. There's dew on the grass in the morning. He suddenly couldn't remember if he had known this or not, and made him quite irritable. And it made him quite irritable. Okay, cool. And if you look, she nodded at the sky. There's a man in the moon. Okay. He hadn't looked for a long time. They walked the rest of the way in silence, hers thoughtful, his a kind of clenching and uncomfortable silence in which he shot her accusing glances. Okay, so she was staring at her while they both were walking. Uh, Glances. When they reached her house, all its lights were blazing. What's going on? Montag had really seen that many house lights. Oh, just my mother and father and uncle sitting around talking. It's like being a pedestrian, only rarer. My uncle was arrested another time, did I tell you, for being a pedestrian? Oh, we are almost peculiar. Peculiar is uh, being different, I think. Wait, let me see. I have to confirm. Different to what is normal, huh? Strange, basically. Peculiar means strange. Strange or different, okay? But what do you talk about? Okay, but what do you talk about? She laughed at this. Good night. Okay, so let. Oh, just my mother and father and uncle sitting around talking. It's like being a pedestrian, only rarer. My uncle was arrested another time, did I tell you? For being a pedestrian. Oh, we are almost peculiar. But what do you talk about? Okay, so that means his uncle was arrested for being a pedestrian, but she isn't. So that is why she is different. But what do you talk about? She laughed at this. Good night. She started up her walk. Then she seemed to remember something and came back to look at him with wonder and curiosity. Are you happy? She said. Am I what? He cried. But she was gone. Running in the moonlight, her front door shut gently. Happy of all the nonsense, he stopped laughing. He put his hand in the glove hole of his front door and let it know his touch. The front door slid open. Of course, I'm happy. What does she think? I'm not? He asked the quiet room. She stood looking up at the ventilator grill in the hall and suddenly remembered that something lay hidden behind the grill. Something that seemed to peer down at him now. He moved his eyes quickly away. Okay, he's afraid or shy or ashamed of something. Cool, no issues. What a strange meeting on a strange night. Hey, I'm not running out of battery. Oh, I'm running out of battery. Wait. Nobody is watching me right now. But yeah. Resuming back. Ventilator grill in his hall. Okay. And suddenly remembered that something lay hidden behind the grill. Something that seemed to peer down at him now. He moved his eyes quickly away. What a strange meeting on a strange night. He remembered nothing like it save one afternoon a year ago when he had met an old man in the park and they had talked. Okay. Montag shook his head. He looked at a blank wall. The girl's face was there. Really quite beautiful in memory, astonishing in fact. She had a very thin face, like the tail of a small clock seen faintly in a dark room. In the middle of a night, when you waken to see the time and see the clock telling you the hour and the minute and the second, with a white silence and a glowing, all certainty and knowing what it has to tell of the night passing swiftly on towards further darkness but moving also towards the new sun. Oh, this is very good. How her face is described along with her character is very good. Awesome stuff. Uh, uh, this is very good. I'll mark this. Okay, so she had a very thin face, like the dial of a small clock seen faintly in a dark room in the middle of a night when you waken to see the time and use the clock telling you the hour and the minute and the second, with a white silence and a glowing all certainty and knowing what it has to tell of the night passing swiftly w- on toward further darkness but moving also towards a new sun. Good. What asked Montag of that other self, the subconscious idiot that ran blabbling all the times, quite independent of will, habit and conscience. What is conscience? I don't know. I'll look it up. He glanced. Okay, wait, let me look it up. What is conscience? Conscience, I know. Is it conscience? Conscience. Okay, conscience. A person moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as a guide of one behavior. Conscience. Yeah, so I was reading it wrong. A person what? Moral sense. Moral sense of right and wrong. Okay, okay. So that he is describing some uh, a personality of his other self. Cool. Okay. He glanced back at the wall, how like a mirror to her face. Okay, so this is the wall where he was uh, seeing her face. Impossible. For how many people did you know that refracted your own light to you? People were more often. He searched for a smile, found one in his work, torches blazing away until they whiffed out. How rarely did other people's faces take off you and throw back to you your own expression, your own innermost trembling thoughts. This is good. This is good. Too much to read, too much to know. Wait. Okay. It's been an hour since I started streaming. Two people are watching. What incredible power of identification the girl had. She was like the eager watcher of Marinette's show, anticipating each flicker of an eyelid, each gesture of his hand, each flick of a finger, the moment before it began. How long had they walked together? 3 minutes, five, yet how large the time seemed now. Okay, because he was talking very fast and how it was. How immense a figure she was on the stage before him. What a shadow she threw on the wall with her slender body. He felt that if his eyes eye itched, she might blink, and if the muscles of his jaw stretched imperceptibly, she would yawn long before he would. Okay, so because she was very fast. Why? He thought, now what I think, now that I think of it, she almost seemed to be waiting for me there in the street so damned late at night. Okay, he opened the bedroom door. It was like coming into the cold marble room of a mausoleum after the moon had set. Mausoleum is what? Tomb kind of thing. I don't know. Mausoleum. MAU. Impressive building housing a tomb or a group of tombs. Correct. Hmm. Complete darkness. Not a hint of the silver world outside. The windows tightly shut. The chamber a tomb world where no sound from the great city could penetrate. Didn't he talk about his wife? There is a wife, I don't know. The room was not empty. He listened. The little mosquito delegate dancing hum in the air, the electrical murmur of a hidden wasp snug in its special pink warm nest. The music was almost loud enough so he could follow the tune. He felt his smile slid away, melt, fold over and down on itself like a tallow skin, like the stuff of a fantastic candle. Okay, my laptop is heating. Let me close other things, cursor and all. There are too many things open. MongoDB Compass is open for some reason. This is a MacBook Pro, so it is not an issue. Hmm. Okay. He felt his smile slide away, melt, fold over and down on itself like a tallow skin, like the stuff of a fantastic candle burning too long and now collapsing, and now blown out. Darkness. He was not happy. He was not happy. Okay, he wrote it twice. He said the words to himself. He recognized this as the true state of affairs. He wore his happiness like a mask, and the girl had run off across the lawn with the mask, and there was no way of going back to knock on her door and ask for it back. So good, very good. This is this is writing. Without turning on the light, he imagined how this room would look. His wife stretched on the bed, uncovered and cold, like a body displayed on the lid of a tomb. Her eyes fixed on to the ceiling by invisible threads of steel, immovable, and in her eyes the little seashells, the thimble radios dammed tight, and an electronic ocean of sound, of music and talk coming in on the shore of her unsleeping mind. The room was indeed empty. Every night the waves came in and bore her off on their great tides of sound, floating her wide eyed towards morning, not morning. There had been no night in the last 2 years that Mildred had not swung that sea. Okay, so that is his wife's name. Had not sworn that sea. He had not gladly gone down in it for the third time. The room was cold, but nonetheless, he felt he could not breathe. He did not wish to open the curtains and open the French windows, for he did not want the moon to come into the room. So, with the feeling of a man who will die in the next hour for lack of air, he felt his way towards his open, separate, and therefore cold bed, separate bed. An instant before his foot hit the object on the floor, he knew he would hit such an object. It was not unlike the feeling he had experienced before turning the corner and almost knocking the girl down. His foot, almost knocking the girl down. Okay, so it's about that time when he was walking on the pathway, sending vibrations ahead, received back echoes of the small barrier across its path even as the foot swung. His foot kicked, the object gave a dull clink and slid off in the darkness. He stood very straight and listened to the person on the dark bed in the completely featureless night. The breath coming out of the nostrils was so faint it stirred only the furthest fringes of life. A small leaf, a black feather, and a single fiber of air. What is this? The breath coming out of the nostril was so faint it stirred only the furthest fringes of life. A small leaf, a black feather, and a single fiber of air. He did not want outside light. He pulled out his igniter, felt the salamander etched on its silver tusk, gave it a flick. Two moonstones looked up at him in the night of his small handheld fire. Two pale moonstones buried in a creek of clear water over which the life of the world ran, not touching them. Mildred. Her face was like a snow covered island upon which rain might fall, but it felt no rain, over which clouds might pass their moving shadows, but she felt no shadow. There was only the singing of the thimble wasps in her tamped shut ears, faintly in and out of her nostrils, and her not caring whether it came or went or came. The object had sent tumbling with his foot now, glinted under the edge of his own bed. The small crystal bottle of sleeping tablets, which earlier today had been filled with 30 capsules and which now lay uncapped and empty in the light of the tiny flare. Okay, so someone took all the medicines. As he stood there, the sky over the house screamed. There was a tremendous ripping sound, as if two giant hands had torn 10,000 miles of black linen down the seam. Montauk was cut in half. He felt his chest chopped down and split apart. The jet bombs going over, one, two, one, two, one, two, six of them, nine of them, 12 of them, one and another and another and another, did all the screaming for him. He opened his own mouth and let their shriek come down and out between his bared teeth. The house shook. The flare went out in his hand. The moonstones vanished. He felt his hand plunge towards the telephone. The jets were gone. He felt his lips move, brushing the mouthpiece of the phone. Emergency hospital, a terrible whisper. He felt that the stars had been pulverized by the sound of the black jets, and that in the morning the earth would be covered with their dust like a strange snow. That was his idiot thought as he stood shivering in the dark and let his lips go on moving and moving. They had this machine. They had two machines. Really? One of them slid down into his stomach like a black cobra down, down and etching, well looking for an old water, and the old time gathered there. It drank up the green matter that flowed to the top in the slow boil. Did it drink the darkness? Did it suck out all the poisons accumulated with the years? It fed in silence with an occasional sound of inner suffocation and blind searching. It had an eye. The impersonal operator, the impersonal operator of the machine could, by wearing a special optical helmet, gaze into the soul of the person whom he was pumping out. What did the eye see? He did not say. He saw but did not see what the eye saw. The entire operation was unlike the digging of a trench in one's yard. The woman on the bed was no more than a hard stratum of marble they had reached. Oh man. Okay, let me drink water. I'm feeling sleepy. What did the eye see? He did not say. He saw, but he did not see what the eye saw. The entire operation was not unlike the digging of a trench in one's yard. The woman on the bed was no more than a hard stratum of marble they had reached. Go on, anyway, shove the bore down, slush up the emptiness. If such a thing could be brought out in the throb of the suction snake, the operator stood smoking a cigar. The other machine was working too. The other machine was operated by an equally impersonal fellow in a non-stainable reddish brown overalls. This machine pumped all the blood from the body and replaced it with fresh blood and serum. Go to clean him out both ways. Gotta clean him out both ways, said the operator, standing over the silent woman. No use getting the stomach if you don't clean the blood. Hmm. Leave that stuff in the blood, and the blood hits the brain like a mallet bang. A couple of thousand times, and the brain just gives up, just quits. Hey, what is happening to him? Is he gone crazy, or is he remembering some stuff? I think it started from here. He still did not want outside it. He pulled over his niter, felt the salamander etched on it, gave it a flick. After this, This is like 2 pages of them going on and on about some cut. They cut to a scene. Stop it, said Montag. I was just saying, said the operator. Are you done? Said Montag. They shut the machines up tight. We are done. His anger did not even touch them. They stood, sorry, they stood with the cigarette smoke curling around their noses and into their eyes without making them blink or squint. That's $50. First, why don't you tell me if she'll be alright? Sure, she'll be okay. We got all the mean stuff right in our suitcase here. It can't get at her now. As if, as I said, you take out the old and put in the new and you are okay. Okay, so they are doing something to people here, or it seems like this, because here also he said you got to clean them both ways, take out all the blood. I think it's a machine of some kind. They set the machine up right. Okay, ठीक है? Clean. First, why don't you tell me if she'll be okay? Y- We got to we got all the mean stuff right in our suitcase here. It can't get at her now. As I said, you take out the old and put in the new, and you are okay. Neither of you is an MD. Okay. MD, I think it's doctor. Why didn't they send an MD for emergency? Hell, the operator's cigarette moved on his lips. We got these cases 9 or 10 a night. We get these cases 9 or 10 a night. Got so many. Starting a few years ago, we had the special machines built with the optical lens. Of course, that was new. The rest is ancient. You don't need an MD. Case like this, all you need is two handymen. Clean up the problem in half an hour. Look, he started for the door. We gotta go. Just had another call on the old ear thimble. 10 blocks from here, someone else just jumped off the cap of a pill. She killed herself. She ate the whole bottle. This is sad. Call if you need us again. Keep her quiet. We got a contraceptive in her. She'll wake up hungry so long. And the men with the cigarettes in their straight lined mouths, the men with the eyes of puff adders, took up their load of machine and tube, their case of liquid melancholy, and the slow sludge of nameless stuff, and strolled out of the door. Montag sank down into a chair and looked at his woman. At this woman, her eyes were closed now, gently, and he put out his hand to feel the warmness of breath on his palm. Mildred, he said at last, there are too many of us, he thought. There are billions of us, and that's too many. Nobody knows anyone. Strangers come and violate you. But strangers come and cut your heart out. Strangers come and take your blood. Good God, who were those men? I never saw them before in my life. Half an hour passed. The bloodstream in the woman was new, and it seemed to have done a new thing to her. Her cheeks were very pink, and her lips were very fresh and full of color, and they looked soft and relaxed. Someone else's blood there, if only someone else's flesh and brain and memory. If only they could have taken her mind along to the dry cleaners and emptied the pockets and steamed and cleansed it and reblocked it and brought it back in the morning. If only. He got up and put back the curtains and opened the window wide to let the night air in. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. Was it only an hour ago? Clarice McAllen in the street and him coming in, and the dark room and his foot kicking the little crystal bottle. Only an hour, but the world had melted down and sprung up in a new colorless form. Hey, this is cool. They can save people like this, huh? Mm. What is the time right now? Oh, so this is my friend. I think he was messaging me. Hi, Sumit. Okay. Only an hour, but the world had melted down and sprung up in a new and colorless form. Laughter blew across the moon colored lawn from the house of Clarice and her father and mother, and the uncle who smiled so quietly and so honestly. Above all, their laughter was relaxed and hearty and not forced in any way, coming from the house that was so brightly lit this late at night while all the other houses were kept to themselves in darkness. Montag heard the voices talking, giving, talking, weaving, reweaving their hypnotic web. Montag moved out through the French windows and crossed the lawn without even thinking of it. He stood outside the talking house in the shadows, thinking he might even tap on their door and whisper, "Let me come in. I won't say anything. I just want to listen what is it you are saying." But instead, he stood there very cold, his face a mask of ice, listening to a man's voice, the uncle, moving along at an easy pace. Well, after all, this is the age of the disposable tissue. Blow your nose on a person, ward them, flush them away, reach for another, blow, ward, flush. Everyone using everyone else's coat tails. How are you supposed to root for the home team when you don't even have a program to know the names? For that matter, what color jerseys are they wearing as they trot out on the field? Montag moved back to his own house, left the window wide, checked Mildred, tucked the covers about her carefully, and then lay down with the moonlight on his cheekbones and on the frowning ridges in his brow. With the moonlight distilled in each eye to form a silver cataract there. One drop of rain, Clarice, another drop, Mildred, a third the uncle, a fourth the fire tonight. One Clarice, two Mildred, three uncle, four fire, one Mildred, two Clarice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clarice, Mildred, uncle, fire, sleeping tablets, men, disposable tissue, coat tails. What is coat tails? Blow, ward, flush, clarite, Clarice, Mildred, uncle, fire. Hey, I'm not. This is how it is written. Uncle, fire, tablets, tissue, blow, ward, flush, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, rain, the storm, the uncle laughing, thunder falling downstairs, the whole world pouring down, the fire gushing up in a volcano, all rushing on down around in a spouting roar and rivering stream towards morning. I don't know anything anymore, he said, and let us sleep, losing dissolve in his tongue. Losing, I think it's that ground tablet. I don't know anything anymore, he said, and he took the medicine. At 9 in the morning, Mildred's bed was empty. Montag got up quickly, his heart pumping, and ran down the hall and stopped at the kitchen door. Toast popped out of the silver toaster, was seized by a spidery metal hand and drenched it with melted butter. Cool. Mildred is alive again. Mildred watched the toast delivered to her plate. She had both her ear plugged with electronic bees that were humming the hour away. That earphones. It's a very weird way of defining earphones, but they do waste your time. So humming the hour away, such a good way of demonstrating or explaining something. She looked up suddenly, saw him, and nodded. You all right? He asked. She was an expert in lip reading from tens of years of apprenticeship at Cecil ear thimbles. She nodded again. She said the toaster clicking away at another piece of bread. Montag sat down. His wife said, I don't know why I should be so hungry. You, I am hungry. Last night he began. Didn't sleep well. Felt terrible, she said. God, I'm hungry. I can't figure it. Last night he said again. Oh, so he's trying to tell her that you killed yourself. She watched his lip casually. What about last night? Don't you remember what? Did we have a wild party or something? Feel like I'm hungover. God, I'm hungry. Who was here? A few people, he said. That's what I thought. She chewed her toes, sore stomach. But I'm hungry as all get out. Hope I didn't do anything foolish at the party. Nah, you didn't. You just killed yourself. There is a cockroach there. No, he said quietly. The toaster spidered out a piece of buttered bread for him. He held it in his hand, feeling grateful. You don't look so hot yourself, said his wife. In the late afternoon, it rained, and the entire world was dark grey. He stood in the hall of his house, putting on his badge with the orange salamander burning across it. He stood looking up at the air conditioning vent in the hall for a long time. His wife in the TV parlor paused long enough from reading her script to glance up. Hey, she said, the man's thinking. Yes, he said, I wanted to talk to you. He paused. You took all the pills in your bottle last night. Oh, I wouldn't do that, she said, surprised. The bottle was empty. I wouldn't do a thing like that. Why would I do a thing like that? She asked. Maybe you took two pills and forgot. You took two more and forgot, and you took two more, and you were so dopey you kept right on until you had 30 or 40 of them in you. Heck, she said. What would I want to go and do a silly thing like that for? I don't know, he said. She was quite obviously waiting for him to go. I didn't do that, she said. Never in a billion years. All right, if you say so, he said. Okay, this is interesting now. Okay, let me drink water. Okay, so we'll resume again. Okay, all right. So I think she is planning to do this again. I don't know. That's what the lady said. She turned back to her script. What's on this afternoon? He asked tiredly. She didn't look up from her script again. Well, this is a play. Comes on the wall-to-wall circuit in 10 minutes. They mailed me my part this morning. I sent in some box tops. They wrote. They write the script with one part missing. That's new. It's a new idea. The homemaker. That's me. Is the missing part. When it comes time for the missing lines, they all let me out of the three walls and I say the lines. Here, for instance, the man said, "What do you think of this whole idea, Helen?" And he looks at me sitting here, stage. See? And I say, she paused and ran her finger under a line in the script. I think that's fine. And then they go on with the play until he says, "Do you agree to that, Helen?" And I say, "I sure do. Isn't that fun, guy?" He stood in the wall looking at her. It's sure fun, she said. What's the play about? I just told you these there are these people named Bob and Ruth and Helen. Oh, it's really fun. It will be even more fun when we can afford to have fourth wall installed. Fourth wall installed? What is this? I think it's a very advanced field. How long you figure before we save up and get the fourth wall torn out and the fourth wall TV put in? It's only $2,000. Lol. That's one third of my yearly pay. It's only $2,000, she replied, and I shouldn't think you'd consider me sometimes. If we had a fourth wall, why it'd be just like this room wasn't ours at all, but all kinds of exotic people's room. We all could do things, do we could do without a few things. We are already doing a few things to pay for the third wall. It was put in only 2 months ago, remember? It was. Is that all it was? She sat looking at him for a long moment. Well, goodbye, dear. Goodbye, he said. He stopped and turned around. Does it have a happy ending? I haven't read that far. He walked over, read the last page, nodded, folded the script, and handed it back to her. He walked out of the house into the rain. Oh, it was dark grey, they told earlier. The rain was thinning away, and the girl was talking in the center of the sidewalk with her head up and the few drops falling on her face. She smiled when she saw Montag. "Hello," he said. "Hello," and then said, "What are you up to now?" "I'm still crazy. The rain feels good. I love to walk in it." "I don't think like that," he said. "Cool. You might if you tried." "I never have." She licked her lips. "Rain even tastes good." "What do you do? Go around trying everything once?" he asked. "Sometimes twice." She looked at something in her hand. "What you have got there?" he said. "I guess it's the last of the dandelions this year. I didn't think I'd find one on the lawn this late. Have you ever heard the rubbing of it under your chin?" "Look," she touched her chin with the flower, laughing. "Why, if it rubs off, it means I am in love, has it?" He couldn't hardly do anything else but look. "Well," she said, If you are yellow under there, fine, let's try you now. This is cool. I don't know if you are yellow under there, what does it means? Fine, let's try you now. It won't work on me. Here, before he could move, she had put the dandelion under his chin. He drew back and she laughed, hold still. She peered under his chin and frowned. Well, he said, what a shame, she said. You are not in love with anyone. Yes, I am. It doesn't show. This is good. I am very much in love. Eh, Do I have new comments? No. I am very much in love. He tried to conjure up a face to fit the words. But there was no face. I am. Oh, please don't look that way. It's the dandelion, he said. You have used it up all on yourself. That's why it won't work on me. Of course, that must be it. Oh, now I have upset you. I can see I have. I'm sorry, really, I am. She touched his elbow. No, no, he said quickly. I'm all right. I've got to be going, so say you forgive me. I don't want to angry. I don't want you angry with me. I'm not angry, upset. Yes, I've got to go to see the my psychiatrist now. They make me go. I made up things to say. I don't know what he thinks of me. He says I'm a regular onion. I keep him busy peeling away the layers. Cool, cool. I'm inclined to believe you need the psychiatrist, said Montag. You didn't mean that. He took a breath and let it out at last say, no, I don't mean that. The psychiatrist wants to know why I go out and hike around in the forest and watch the birds and collect butterflies. I'll show you my collection someday. Good. They want to know what I do with all my time. I tell them sometimes I just sit and think, but I won't tell them that I have got them running. And sometimes I tell them I like to put my head back like this and let the rain fall into my mouth. It tastes just like wine. Have you ever tried it? No, I have. You have forgiven me, aren't you? Yes, he thought about it. It's a very jolly character that he wrote. It's very good. You have forgiven me, haven't you? Yes, he thought about it. Yes, I have. God knows why you are peculiar, you are aggravating, you are, yet you are easy to forgive. You say you are 17. Well, next month. How odd. How strange. And my wife, 30, and yet you seem so much older at times. I can't get over it. You're peculiar yourself, Mr. Montag. Sometimes I even forget you're a fireman. Now, may I make you angry again? Go ahead. How did it start? How did you get into it? How did you pick your work and how did you happen to think to take the job you have? You're not like the others. I've seen a few. I know. When I talk, you look at me. When I said something about the moon, you looked at the moon last night. The others would never do that. The others would walk off and leave me talking or threaten me. No one has time any more for anyone else. You are one of the few who put up with me. That's why I think it's so strange you're a fireman. It doesn't, it just doesn't seem right for you some. He felt his body divide into itself into a hotness and a coldness, a softness and a hardness, a trembling and a not trembling, the two halves grinding upon the other. Okay. You'd better run on to your appointment, he said. I think she hit a nerve or something. And she ran off and left him standing there in the rain. Only after a long time did he move. And then, very slowly as he walked, he tilted his head back in the rain just for a few moments and opened his mouth. The mechanical hound slept but did not sleep, lived but did not live in its gently humming, gently vibrating, softly illuminated back canal. I think that's where the dog live. Back in the dark corner of the firehouse. The dim light of 1 in the morning, the moonlight from the open sky framed through the grating window, touched here and there on the brass and the copper and the steel of the faintly trembling paste. Light flickered on bits of ruby glass and on sensitive capillary hairs in the nylon brushed nostril of the creature that quivered gently, 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 its 8 legs spidered under it on rubber padded paws. Montag slid down the brass pole. He went out to look at the city, and the clouds had cleared away completely. And he lit a cigarette and came back to bend down and look at the hound. It was a great bee come home from some field where the honey is full of poison, wildness, of insanity and nightmare. Its body crammed with that over-rich nectar, and now it was sleeping the evil out of itself. Hello, whispered Montag, fascinated as always with the dead beast, the living beast. Okay, I think it's describing something where it works. At night when things got dull. At night when things got dull, which was every night, the men slid down the brass poles and set the ticking combination of the olfactory system of the hound and let olfactory system of the hound and let loose the rat in the firehouse area, and sometimes chickens. Okay, so they are like having an entertainment out of it, and sometimes cat that would have to be drowned anyway. What the and there would be betting to see which the hound would seize first. The animals were turned loose. 3 seconds later, the game was done. The rat, cat, or chicken caught half across the area way, gripped in gentling paws, while a 4-inch hollow steel needle plunged down the proboscis of the hound, and to inject massive jolts of morphine or procaine. The pawn was then tossed in the incinerator. A new game began. Damn, this is dark. Montag stayed upstairs on most nights when this went on. Okay, so this guy is aloof. There had been a time 2 years ago when he had bet with the best of them and lost a week's salary and faced Mildred's insane anger, which showed itself in vein and blotches. What is blotches? I don't know. But now at night he lays in his bunk, face turned to the wall, listening to whoops of laughter below and the piano strings scurry of rat fit, the violin squeaking of mice, and the great shadowing motion silence of the hound leaping out like a moth in the raw light, holding its victim, inserting the needle and going back to the kennel to die as if a switch had been turned. Montag touched the muzzle. The hound growled. Montag jumped back. Okay, so he went and touched this creature. The hound half rose in its kennel and looked at him with green blue neon light flickering. Oh, it's a robot! Flickering in its suddenly activated eyeball bulbs. Eye bulbs. It growled again, a strange rasping combination of electrical sizzle, a frying sound, a scraping of metal, a turning of cogs that seemed rusty and ancient with suspicion. Hey, this looks like it could have been an episode of Love Death Robots. Hello. Yeah. Hmm. With suspicion, scraping of metal turning and a turning of cogs that seemed rusty and ancient with suspicion. No, no, boy, said Montag, his heart pounding. He saw the silver needle extended upon the air an inch. Pull back, extend, pull back. The growl simmered in the beast and it looked at him. Montag backed up. The hound took a step from its kennel. Montag grabbed the brass pole with one hand. The pole, reacting, slid upwards and took him through the ceiling. Quietly he stepped off in the half-lift deck of the upper level. He was trembling and his face was green-white. Below, the hound had sunk back down upon its eight incredible insect legs and was humming to itself again. Cool. Its multifaceted eyes at peace. Montag stood, letting the fears pass by the drop hole. Behind him, four men at the card table under the green lighted light in the corner glanced briefly but said nothing. Only the man with the captain's hat and the sign of the phoenix on his hat, at last curious, his playing cards in his team hand, talked across the long room. Montag, it doesn't like me, said Montag. What, the hound? The captain studied his card. So he was like looking at his card and then talking to him. Come off it, it doesn't like or dislike. It just functions. Oh, it's a robot for sure. It doesn't like a lesson in ballistic. It's like a lesson in ballistic. It has a trajectory, we decide for it, it follows through, it targets itself, homes itself, and cuts off. It's only copper wire, storage batteries, and electricity. Montag swallowed. Its calculator can be set to any combination. So many amino acids, so many sulfur, so much butterfat and alkaline, right? Okay, they're going technical now. We all know that all of those chemical balances and percentages on all of us here in the house are recorded in the master file downstairs. Oh, that is how it doesn't bites them or attacks them. It would be easy for someone to set up a partial combination on the hound's memory, a touch of amino acids perhaps, that would account for what the animal did just now, reacted toward me. Hell, said the captain, irritated but not completely angry. Just enough memory. Set up it in by someone so it growled when I touched it. Who would do things like that, said the captain. You haven't any enemies here, guy. None that I know of. Well, we all have the hound checked up by our technicians tomorrow. We'll have the hound checked up by our technicians. This isn't the first time it's threatened me, said Montag. Last time it happened twice. Well, we'll fix it up, don't worry. But Montag did not move and only stood thinking of the ventilator grill in the hall at the home and what lay hidden behind the grill. Oh, it's still a mystery what is in his home behind the grill. If someone here in the firehouse knew about the ventilator, then why didn't they tell the hound? Oh, it's something illegal he shouldn't be doing. Or he shouldn't be possessing that. The captain came over to the drop hole and gave Montag a questioning glance. I was just figuring, said Montag. What does the hound think about down there nights? Is it coming alive on us? Really? It makes me cold. It doesn't think anything. We don't want it to think. That said Montag quietly, because all we put into it is hunting and finding and killing. What a shame if that's all it can ever know. Hmm. Betty snorted. Oh, so this is uh, that guy who was ha 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 doing and his boss like okay. In I think in the first page they were describing it. Snorted gently. Hell, it's a fine bit of craftsmanship. A good rifle that can fetch its own target and guarantees the bullseye every time. That's why, said Montag, I wouldn't want it to be its next victim. Why, you got a glitchy conscience about something? Montag glanced up swiftly. Okay, so he said, but he stood there looking at him steadily with his eyes, while his mouth opened and began to laugh very softly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and as many times he came out of the house, Clarice was there. Oh, Clarice is a joy to meet. Somewhere in the world, once he saw her shaking a walnut tree, once he saw her sitting on a long knitting. I love this character. A blue sweater, 3 or 4 times he found a bouquet of late flowers on his porch, or a handful of chestnut in a little sack, or some autumn leaves neatly pinned to a sheet of white paper and thumbtacked on his door. Every day, Clarice walked him to the corner. One day it was raining, the next it was clear, the day after that the wind blew strong, and the day after that it was mild and calm, and the day after that calm day was a day like a furnace of summer, and Clarice, with her face all sunburned by late afternoon. Why is it? He said one time at the subway entrance. I feel I've known you so many years. Because I like you, she said. And I don't want anything from you, and because we know each other. You make me feel very old and very much like a father. Now you explain, she said, why you haven't any daughters like me. Okay. I don't know if in this era they have daughters or not. The way things are described, if it's like people are allowed to take birth or they create people, God knows. Uh, if you love children so much, I don't know, you're joking. I mean, he stopped and shook his head. Well, my wife, she, she just never wanted any children at all. Okay. How many people are watching? Nobody is watching. The girl stopped smiling. I'm sorry, I really thought you were having fun at my expense. I'm a fool. No, no, he said, It was a good question. It's been a long time since anyone cared enough to ask a good question. Let's talk about something else. Have you ever smelled old leaves? Don't they smell like cinnamon? Here, smell. So this girl is giving him to smell. She's always coming up with things. Why, yes, it is like cinnamon in a way. She looked at him with her clear dark eyes. You always seem shocked. It's just I haven't had time. Did you look at the stretched out billboards like I told you? I think so, yes, he had to laugh. Your laugh sounds much nicer than it did. Does it? Much more relaxed. Oh my god, I'm scared that something bad is going to happen. He felt at ease and comfortable. Why aren't you in school? I see you every day wandering around. Oh, they don't miss me, she said. I'm antisocial, they said. I don't mix. It's so strange. I'm very social indeed. It all depends on what you mean by social, doesn't it? S- Social to me means talking about things like this. She rattled some chestnut that had fallen off the tree in the front yard, or talking about how strange the world is. Being with people is nice, but I don't think it's social to get a bunch of people together and then not let me talk to you. An hour of TV class, an hour of basketball or baseball, or running another, or of transcription history, or painting pictures and more sports. But do you know, we never ask questions, at least most don't. They just run the answers. Reminds me of Rabindranath Tagore's Shantiniketan. What he did, what he tried to solve. Run answers at you. Bling, bing, bing, bing. And us sitting there for 4 more hours of film teacher. Okay, they are running recorded lectures, so it's automated. Definitely, it would be some boring way or doing this thing, them being this advanced. That's not social to me at all. It's a lot of funnels and a lot of water poured down the spout and out the bottom, and then telling us it's wine when it's not. They run us so racked by the end of the day we can't do anything but go to bed or head for a fun park to bully people around, break window panes in the window smasher place, and wreck cars in the car wrecker place. Oh, so that is like when they made places to vent out anger and all of those things with a steel ball, or go out in the cars and race on the streets trying to see how close you can get to lamp posts, playing chicken and knock hubcaps. I guess I'm everything they say. I'm all right. I am all right. I haven't any friends. I haven't any friends. Okay, that's supposed to prove I am abnormal, but everyone I know is either shouting or dancing around like wild or beating up one another. Do you notice how people hurt each other nowadays? You sound so very old. Sometimes I'm ancient. Okay, so I think that's our guy said. I forgot his name. Minter, like, what his name, man? I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm ancient. I'm afraid of children my own age. They kill each other. Did they always used to be that way? My uncle says no. 6 of my friends have been shot in the last year alone. Oh my god, this is so relatable to the current world scenario. 10 of them died in car wrecks. I'm afraid of them, and they don't like me because I'm afraid. My uncle says his grandfather remembered when children didn't kill each other But that was a long time ago when they had things different. They believed in responsibility, my uncle says. Do you know I'm responsible? I was spanked when I needed it years ago, and I do all the shopping and house cleaning by hand. But most of all, she said, I like to watch people. Sometimes I ride the subway all day and look at them and listen to them. I just want to figure out who they are and what they want and where they are going. Sometimes I even go to the fun parks and ride in the jet cars when they race on the edge of town and midnight and the police don't care as long as they are insured. As long as everyone has 10,000 insurance, everyone's happy. Sometimes I sneak around and listen to subway, or I listen at soda fountains. And do you know what people don't talk about anything? Oh, they must. Okay, so this is our guy saying this. No, not nothing. They name a lot of cars or clothes or swimming pools mostly, and say how swell. But they all say the same things, and nobody says anything different from anyone else. At and most of the time in the cafes they have the joke boxes on, and the same jokes most of the time, or the musical wall lit and all the color patterns running up and down. But this all is reminding me of this game Cyberpunk 2077, having insurance and all. It's a good thing. Like, it's very relatable to that whole world they built there. Okay, and the musical wall lit and all the color patterns running up and down, but it's only color and all abstract. And at the museums, have you ever been all abstract? Modern art, if you see the current day modern art, people sticking banana on by cello, this duct tape on wall, calling it art. At the museum, have you ever been all abstract? That's all there is now. My uncle says it was different once, a long time back. Sometimes pictures said things or even showed people. Your uncle must be a remarkable man, he said. He is certainly, he is. Well, I've got to be going. Goodbye, Mr. Montag. Okay, yeah. I'm sleepy now. I might go to sleep if after I think 50 pages, I'll go to sleep. We are at 44 right now. How much is this book? How big is this book? 227. Around 20 to 25% is finished. Goodbye, goodbye. Montag said goodbye. Clarice also. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. The firehouse, Montag. You shin that pole like a bird up a tree. Third day. Montag, I see you came in the back door. The hound bother you? No, no. Oh, so this is talk of their office. Fourth day, Montag, a funny thing. Heard tell this morning firemen in Seattle purposely set a mechanical hound on his own chemical complex and let it loose. What kind of suicide would you call that? 5, 6, 7 days. Okay, so it's telling what all happened in the next 7 days. And then Clarice was gone. He didn't know what there was about the afternoon, but it was not seeing her somewhere in the world. The lawn was empty, the trees empty, the street empty, and While at first he did not know he missed her or even was looking for her, the fact was that by the time he reached the subway, there were vague stirring of unease in him. Something was the matter. His routine had been disturbed. A simple routine, true, established in a short few days, and routine, and yet he almost turned back to make the walk again, to give her time to reappear. He was certain if he tried the same route, everything would work out fine. But it was late, and the arrival of his train put a to his plan. The flutter of cards, motion of hands, of eyelids, the drone of the time voice in the firehouse ceiling. 1:35 Thursday morning, November 4th, 1:36. So he's counting the minutes. 1:37 a.m. The tick of the playing cards or the greasy tabletop. All the sounds came to Montag behind his closed eyes, behind the barrier he had momentarily erected. He could feel the firehouse full of glitter and shine and silence, of brass colors, the colors of coins, of golds, of silver. The unseen man across the table was sighing on the cards, waiting. 1:45. The voice clock moaned around the cold hour of a cold morning of a still colder year. What's wrong, Montag? Montag opened his eyes. The radio hummed somewhere. War may be declared any hour. This country stands ready to defend its. The firehouse trembled as a great light of jet planes whistled a single note across the black morning sky. Montag blinked. Beauty Betty was looking at him as if he were a museum statue. At any moment Betty might rise and walk about him, touching, exploring his guilt and self-conscious. Guilt? What guilt was that? Your play, Montag. Montag looked at this man whose faces were sunburned by a thousand real and 10,000 imaginary fires, whose work flushed their cheeks and fevered their eyes. These men who looked steadily into their platinum igniter flames as they lit their eternally burning black pipes. They and their charcoal hair and soot colored brows and bluish ash smeared cheeks where they had shaven clothes. But their heritage showed. Montag started up, his mouth open. Had he ever seen a fireman that didn't have black hairs, black brows, a fairy face, and a blue steel shaved but unshaved look? These men were all mirror images of himself. Were all firemen picked then for their looks as well as the proclivities, the color of cinder and ash about them, and the continual smell of burning from their pipes? Captain Betty there, rising in thundered of tobacco smoke. Betty opening a fresh tobacco packet, crumpling the cell phone into a sound of fire. Montag looked at the cards in his own hands. I have been thinking about the fire last week, about the man whose library we fixed. What happened to him? They took him screaming off to the asylum. He wasn't insane. Patty arranged his card quietly, and insane who thinks he can fool the government and us. This is cool. I've tried to imagine, said Montag, just how it would feel. I mean, to have firemen burn our houses and our books. We haven't any books. We have. Oh, so I think behind his grill he has books. We haven't any books. But if we did have some, you got some? Betty blinks slowly. Now Montague is beyond him to the wall with the type list of million forbidden books. Cool. This is cool. Their names slept in fire, burning down the years under his axe and his hose, which sprayed not water but kerosene. No, but in his mind, a cold wind started up and blew out the ventilator grill at home, softly chilling his face, and again he saw himself in a green park talking to an old man, a very old man, and the wind from the park was cold too. Montag hesitated. Was it always like this? Oh, it's like here this old man in Green Park is some past events they are trying to give. The firehouse or work? I mean, well, once upon a time, Betty said, "What kind of talk is that?" He's changed. Montag is changed. He's asking stupid question. He's not behaving like himself. He's only looking like the other mirror images of firemen around him, but he's not like one. Fool, thought Montag to himself, you will give it away. At the last fire, a book of fairy tales, he glanced at a single line. I mean, he said, in the old days before homes were completely fireproof, suddenly it seemed a much younger voice was speaking for him. He opened his mouth and it was Clarice McCallan saying, didn't firemen prevent fire rather than stoke them up and get them going? That's right. Stoneman and the Black drew forth their rule books, which also contain brief histories. Okay, so these are the, I think these two guys of the Firemen of America. God, they this is America, and laid them where Montag, though long familiar with them, might read. Established 1790 to burn English influenced books in the colony's first fireman Benjamin Franklin. Rule 1. Answer the alarm swiftly, start the fire swiftly, burn everything, report back to fire immediately, stand alert for other alarms. God, man, this is nice. This is rich. Everyone watched Montag. He did not move. The alarm sounded. The bell in the ceiling kicked itself 200 times. Suddenly there was four empty chairs. The cart fell in the flurry of snow. The brass poles shivered. The men were gone. Montag slid down the pole like a man in a dream. Again, Calhoun leapt up in its gun and its eyes all green. Forward helmet. He seized it off the wall behind him, ran, leapt, and they were off. The night wind hammering about their siren scream and the mighty metal thunder. I think they are going somewhere to burn. Where is Clarice? I am worried about her. It was a flaking three-story house in the ancient part of the city, a century old if it was a day, but like all houses, it had been given a thin, fireproof plastic shell. Aerogel, they gave it aerogel many years ago. Oh my god, my laptop is hot, many years ago. And this perspective shell seemed to be the only thing holding it in the sky. Here we are, the engine slammed to a stop. Betty, Stoneman, and Black ran up the sidewalk suddenly, odious and fat in the plump fireproof slickers. Montag followed. They crashed the front door and grabbed at a woman. Though she was not running, she was only trying to escape. She was only standing, weaving from side to side, her fixed upon the nothingness in the world, as if they had struck her in a terrible blow upon the head. Her tongue was moving in her mouth, her eyes seemed to be trying to remember something, and then they remembered, and her tongue moved again. Play the man, Master Ridley. We shall this day light such a candle by God's grace in England, and I trust I shall never be put out. Enough of that, said Betty. Where are they? He slapped her face with amazing objectivity and repeated the question. The woman's eyes came to focus upon Betty. You know where they are, you wouldn't be here, he said. Stoneman, you know where they are, or you wouldn't be here, she said. Stoneman held out the telephone alarm card with the complaint sign and telephone duplicate on the back. Have reason to suspect attic 11 number Elm City. Oh my god, someone gave the address. This is cool, yo. Elm City, outside of the city. That would be me, Mrs. Blake, my neighbor, said the woman, reading the initials. Alright, man, let's get him. Next thing, they were up in musty blackness, swinging silver hatches at doors that were all, after all, unlocked, tumbling through like boys like Rowley can shout, "Hey!" A mountain of books sprang down upon Montague as he climbed, shuddering up the sheer stairwell. How inconvenient! Always before it had been like snuffing a candle. Bullocks went first and adhesive taped the victim's mouth and bandaged him off in the glittering beetle car. So, when you arrived, you found an empty house. You weren't hurting anyone, and you were hurting only things. And since things really couldn't be hurt, since things felt nothing and things don't scream or whimper, as this woman might begin to scream and cry out, there was nothing to tease your conscience later. You were simply cleaning up, janitorial work, essentially everything to its proper place, quick with the kerosene. Who's got a match? But now tonight someone had slipped. This woman was spoiling the ritual. The men were making too much noise, laughing, joking to cover her terrible accusing silence below. She made the empty room roar with accusation and shook down a fine dust of guilt that was sucked in her nostril as they plunged about. It was neither cricket nor correct. Montague felt an immersive irritation. She shouldn't be here on top of everything. Books bombarded his shoulder, his arms, his unturned face. A book lighted most obediently like a white pigeon in his hand, wings fluttering in the dim, wavering light. A page hung open, and it was like a snowy feather, the words delicately painted thereon. In all the rush and fervor, what is the meaning of fervor? Montag had only an instant to read the line, but it blazed in his mind for the next minute, as if stamped there with fiery steel. Time has fallen asleep in the afternoon sunshine. Time has fallen asleep in the afternoon sunshine. He dropped the book immediately. Among other filters, Montag appeared. Okay, hand closed his mouth, crushed the book with wild devotion, with an insanity of mindlessness to his chest. The men above were hurling shovelfuls of magazines into the dusty air. They felt like slaughtered bird, and the woman stood below like a small girl among the bodies. Montag had nothing. His hand had done it all. His hand with a brain of its own, with a conscience and a curiosity in each trembling finger, had turned thief. It tied to sweating armpit, rushed out empty with a magician's flourish. I think he's stealing book or what? Look here, innocent. Look, he gazed shaken at the white hand. He held it away out, and it was a fire. It hit at close as if he were blind. Montague, he jerked about. Don't stand there, idiot. The books lay like great mounds of fishes left to dry. The man danced and slipped and fell over them. Titles glittered over their golden eyes falling, gone, kerosene. They pumped the cold fluid from the number 451 tank strapped to their shoulders. They quoted each book they pumped round full of it. They hurried downstairs, stared after them in the car. Come on, woman. The woman knelt among the books, touching the drenched leather and cardboard, reading the glit tiles with her fingers, while her eyes accused. Montague, you can't ever have my books, she said. One of the law said, Betty, where's your common sense? None of these books agree with each other. You have been locked up here for years with a regular tower of Babel. Snap out of it. The people in those books never lived. Come on. She shook her head. The whole house is going upset, Betty. The man walked clumsily to the door. They glanced back at Montagu sitting near, not leaving her here. He protested. She won't come. Force her. Force her then. Betty raised his hand in which was concealed the igniter. We are due back at the house. Besides, these fanatics always try suicide. The pattern's familiar. Montag placed his hand on the woman's elbow. You can come with me. No, she said. Thank you anyway. I'm counting to 10, said Betty. 1, 2, please, said Montag. Go on, said the woman. 3, 4, here, Mount. Replied, I want to stay here. 5, 6, you can stop counting, she said. Put the finger of her hand slightly in the palm of his ordinary kitchen match. Oh my god, man. The sight of it rushed the man out and down and away from the house. He kept pulling his dignity back slowly from the phone. His pink face burned inside. House fire and night excitements. God, how true always the night. The alarm comes never by day. Is it because the fire is here by night? Most so good. This is so good. Hi- What he says, always at night the alarm comes, never by day. It's it because the fire is prettier by night, more spectacle, a better show. The pink face of Betty now shoved the faintest panic in the door. The woman's hand twitched on the single matchstick. The fumes of kerosene bloomed upon her. Felt the hidden book pound like heart against his chest. Go on, said the woman. And Montag felt himself back away and away out of the door after Betty drowned the steps across the lawn where the path of kerosene lay like some track of evil snail. So good, so good. Back away and away out of the door after Betty down the steps across the lawn where the path of kerosene lay like the track of some evil snail. So good. The front porch where she said had come to weigh them quietly with her eyes, her quietness and condemnation. The woman stood motionless. Becky flicked his fear to spark the kerosene. He was too late. Montag gasped. One on the porch read out with the contempt for the mall and struck the kitchen back against the railing. People ran out of houses all down the street. Nothing. They said nothing on their way back to the firehouse. Nobody looked at anyone else. Montag sat in the front seat with Betty and Black. They did not even smoke their pipes. They sat there looking out of the front of the great salamander as they turned corner and went silently on. Master Redley said Montag at last. What? Said Betty. She said Master Redley. She said some crazy things when we came in the door. Play the man. She said Master Redley something something something. We shall this day such a candle by God's grace. Cockroach was there, sorry. God's grace in I shall we shall sorry we shall this day light such a candle by God's grace in England, and I trust shall never be put out, said Betty. Stone Man glanced over the captain as did Montag, startled. Betty rubbed his chin. A man named Latimer said that to a man named Nicholas. He remembers Nicholas Ridley as they were being burned alive at Oxford for heresy on October 16th, 1555. Montag and Stoneman went back to Cat Street as it moved under the engine wheels. I'm full of bits and pieces, said Bertie. Most fire captains have to be sometimes. I'm surprised myself. Watch it, Stoneman. Stoneman barked the truck. Braked the truck. Damn, said Betty. You have gone right by the corner where we turned for the firehouse. Who is it? Who would it be? Said Montag, leaning back against the closed door in the dark. His wife said at last. We put on the light. I don't want the light. Oh, come to bed. Oh, so he came back home here after this ended. He heard her roll impatiently the back spring squealed. Are you drunk? She said. So it was the hand that started it all. He felt one hand, then the other work his coat free and let it slump to the floor. He held his pants out into an abyss and let them fall into darkness. His hand had been infected, and soon it would be his arms. He could feel the poison working up his wrist and into his elbows and his shoulders, and then the jump over the shoulder blade to shoulder blade like a spark leaping a gap. His hands were ravenous, and his eyes were beginning to feel hunger, as if they must look at something, anything, everything. His wife said, What are you doing? He balanced in space with the book in his sweating cold finger. He took that book. A minute later, she said, Well, just don't stand there in the middle of the floor. He made a small sound. What? She asked. He made more soft sound. He stumbled towards the bed and shoved the book clumsily under the cold pillow. He fell into bed and his wife cried out, startled. He lay far across the room from her and on a inter island separated by an empty sea. Talked to him for what seemed a long while and talked about this and she talked about that, and it was only words, like the words he had once in the he heard once in a nursery at friend's house. A 2-year-old child building word patterns, talking jargon, making pretty sounds in the air. But Montag said nothing, and after a long while, when he only made the small sound, he felt her move in the he felt her oh yeah, move in the room and come to his bed and stand over him and put her hand down to his cheek. He knew that she pulled her hand away from his face as it was wet. Late in the night he looked over to Mildred. She was awake. There was tiny dance of melody in the air. Her seashell was stamped in the ear again, and she was listening to far people in far places. Her eyes wide and staring at the phantoms of blackness above her in the ceiling. Basically, earphones. Wasn't there an old joke about the wife who talked so much on the telephone that her desperate husband ran out of the nearest door and telephoned her to ask what was the trainer? Well, then why don't he buy himself an audio seashell broadcasting station to talk to his wife late at night? Murmur. Oh, audio seashell broadcasting thing. Cool. They do look like pods kind of thing. Uh, uh, Station and talk to his wife at night. Murmur, whisper, shout, scream, yell. But what would he whisper? What would he yell? What could he say? And suddenly she was so strange and he couldn't believe he knew her at all. He was in someone else's house, like other those other jokes people told around the gentleman drunk coming late at night, in the wrong door, entering the wrong room and bedding with a stranger and getting up early and going to work and neither of them the wiser. Millie, he whispered, what? I didn't want to startle you. What I to know is, well, when we meet and where? When did we meet? For what? She asked. I mean, originally, he knew she must be frowning in the dark. Why is he asking me all this? Hey, this is cool, man. This is so interesting. I should have done this on Saturday night. I have to join work today morning. I guess I'll take my leave now because this is going to interesting. They both are talking now. Where is it? I knew she must be frowning in the dark. He clarified it. The first time we ever met, where was it and when? Why it was at, she stopped. I don't know, she said. He was cold. Can't you remember? Uh, it has, it's been so long. Only 10 years. That's all, only 10. Don't get excited. I'm trying to think, she laughed. And an odd little laugh went up and up. Funny, how funny not to remember where and when. Where or when you met your husband or wife. He lay massaging his eyes, his brows, and the back of his neck. Slowly, he held both hands over his eyes and applied a steady pressure as if to crush memory into place. It was suddenly more important than any other things in a lifetime, and he knew where he had met Mildred. It doesn't matter, she was up in the bathroom now, and he heard water running and swallowing sound made. Oh, she went on and took the pill, sleeping pill. Sad. I guess not, he said. He tried to count many times he swallowed and thought of the visit from the two zinc oxide faced men with the cigarette in their face, straight line mouth and electronic eyed snake winding down into the layer upon layer of night and stone and stagnant spring water, and he wanted to call out to her, how many have you taken tonight? The capsules, how many will you take later and not know? And so on, every hour, or maybe not tonight, tomorrow night, and me not sleeping tonight, or tomorrow night, or any night for a long while. Now that this has started, and he thought of her. Where is the pencil? And they thought of her lying on bed with the two technicians standing straight over her, not wanted with concern, but only standing straight, arms folded, and he remembered thinking then that if she died, he was certain he wouldn't cry, for it would be the dying of an unknown, a street face, a newspaper image, and it was suddenly so very wrong that he had begun to cry, not at that, but at the thought of not crying at that. A silly empty man near a silly empty woman, while the hungry snake made her still more empty. How do you get so empty? He wondered. Who takes it out of you? And that awful flower the other day, the dandelion, it had summed up everything, hadn't it? What a shame. You're not in love with anyone, and why not? Well, wasn't there a wall between him and Mildred when you came down to it? Literally, not just one wall, but so far three. And expensive too. Okay, so she is asking for that fourth wall thing, no. And the uncles, aunts, the cousin, the nieces, the nephews that lived in those walls, the gibbering pack of tree apes that said nothing, 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 and said it loud, loud, loud. He had taken to sealing them, calling them relatives from the very first. How's Uncle Louis today? Who? And Aunt Maud. The most significant memory he had of Mildred really was of a little girl in a forest without trees. How odd! Or or rather, a little girl lost on a plateau where there used to be tree. You could feel the memory of their shapes all about. Sitting in the center of the living room, what a good job of that was now. No matter when he came in, the walls were always talking to Mildred. Something must be done. Yet, yes, something must be done. Well, let's not stand and talk. Let's do it. I'm so mad I could spit. Okay. Well, what was it all about? Mildred couldn't say who was mad at whom. Mildred didn't quite know. This is tight. What were they going to do? Well, said Mildred, wait around and see. He had waited around to see. A great thunderstorm of sound gushed from the walls, bombarded him at so much immense volume that his bones were almost shaken from their tendons. He felt his jaw vibrate, his eyes wobble in his head. He was a victim of a concussion when it was all over. He felt like a man who had been thrown from a cliff, whirled into a centrifuge, and spat over out a waterfall that fell into emptiness and never quite touched bottom. Never quite, not quite touched bottom. And you fell so fast you didn't touch the sides either, never quite touched anything. Did she hit him? The thunder faded, the music died, then there, said Mildred, and it was indeed remarkable. It happened even though the people in the walls of the room had barely moved and nothing had really been settled. You had the impression that someone had turned on a washing machine or up sucked up in a gigantic vacuum. You drowned in the music and pure cacophony. He came out of the room sweating and on the point of collapse. Behind him, Mildred sat in the chair and the on again. Well, everything will be all right now, said Anand. Oh, don't be too sure, said a cousin. Oh, he imagines relatives. That is already been stated there, though. Now don't get angry. You are. I am. You are mad. Why should I be mad? Because that's all very well, cried Montag. But what are they mad about? Who are these people? Who's that man and who's that woman? Are they husband and wife? Are they divorced, engaged, and what? Good God, nothing's connected up. They said Mildred. Well, they had this fight. You see, they certainly fight a lot. You should listen. Think they are married. Yes, they are married. Why? And if it was not the three walls, soon it to be four walls and the dream complete. Then it was the open car and Mildred driving 100 miles an hour across town. He shouted at her and she shouting back and both trying to hear what was said but hearing only the scream of the car. At least keep it down to the minimum, he yelled. What? She cried. Keep it down to 55 to minimum, he shouted. Then what? She shrieked. Speed, he shouted. Then she pushed it. She stayed speed and pushed it for 105 miles an hour and toward the breath of mouth. When they stepped out of the car, she heard the silence, only the wind blowing softly. Mildred stirred. He stirred in bed. He reached over and blew the tiny whisper and stood. Mildred, Mildred. Her voice was faint. Yes, felt he was the one. The creature said, the power was silent from phono-colored walls, sneaking, but the not piercing the crystal barrier. He could not pantomime, hoping she would turn his way to see him. They would not touch through the glass. Mildred, do you know that girl I was telling you about? What girl? She was almost in the girl next door. What girl next? You know the high school Clarice. Her name is. Oh yes. I haven't seen her for before. To be exact. No, I have meant to talk to you about her. Oh, I know what you mean. I thought you would. Her said Mildred in the dark room. What about her? I mean to tell you. Forgot. Tell me now. What is it? I think she's gone. Her whole family moved out somewhere because she's. I think she's dead. We'll be talking about the same girl. The same McKellen run over by a car 2 days ago. I'm not sure, but I think she is dead. The family moved out anyway. No, but I think she's dead. You're sure of it? No, not sure. Pretty sure. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Forgot. 4 days ago, I forgot all about it. 4 days ago, he said quietly, lying there. They lay in the dark room, not moving either of them. Good night, she said. He heard a faint rustle of her hand move. The little night moved like a praying mantis on the window, touched by her hand. It was her ear again humming. She put on the earphones again. What a bitch. Should I go to sleep or should I keep on reading? Okay, I'll read for 10-15 minutes more. This is very interesting. My calendar died, I think. I'm sad. Oh, sorry. I hear again humming. Okay. He listened, and his wife was singing under her breath. Outside the house, a shadow moved. An autumn wind rose up and faded away. But there was something else in the silence he heard. It was like a breath exhaled upon the window. It was like a faint drift of greenish, luminescent smoke, the motion of a single huge October leaf flowing across the lawn and away. The hound, he thought, it's out here tonight, it's out there now. If I open the window, he don't open the window. He had chills and fever in the morning. 600. He closed his eyes over the hotness. Yes, but you were alright last night. No, I wasn't alright. The relative shouting in the parlor. Mildred stood over his bed curiously. He felt her there. He saw her. There he saw her without opening his eyes. Her hair burned by chemical to a brittle straw. Her eyes with a kind of cataract unseen but suspect far behind the pupils. Is she? blind or something. I don't know. Behind the pupils, the reddened, pouting lips, and the body as thin as a praying mantis from dieting, and a flesh like white bacon. He could remember her no other way. Okay. Will you bring me aspirin and water? You've got to get up, she said. It's noon. You have slept 5 hours later than usual. Will you turn the parlor off? He asked. That's my family. Oh. So the voices he was hearing was this parlor TV kind of shit. Will you turn off for a sick man? I'll turn it down. She went out of the room and did nothing to the parlor and came back. It's it bad. Thanks, that's my favorite song. She said. What about this one? You have never been sick before. She went. Well, I'm sick now. I'm not going to work tonight. Call Betty. You acted funny last night. I mean, where's this fancy glanced water glass she handed him? Oh, water the there's something even a fire is all. I had a nice evening, she said in the bathroom. Man, these people are crazy. What doing the parlor? What was on programs? What programs? Some of the best ever. Oh, you know the bunch. So he's talking to those people. But what do you call? Omegle call. Oh, you know the bunch. Yes, the bunch, the bunch, the bunch. He pressed at the pain of his eyes, and suddenly the odor of kerosene made him vomit. Mildred came in humming. She was surprised. Why'd you do that? He looked at dismayed the floor. We burnt an old woman with her books. It's a good thing the rug's washable. She fetched a mop and worked on it. I went to Helen's last night. Who is Helen? Couldn't you get the shoes in your? I think Helen is the people she connects with in the parlor. In your parlor, hear the shows in your room. Sure, it's been nice visiting. Out into the parlor, he heard her singing. Mildred, he called, and singing, snapping her fingers off. Aren't you to ask me what last night? He said. What about it? We burned 1,000 books. We burned a woman. Well, the parlor was exploding with sound. We burned the copies of Dante and Swift and Marcus Aurelius. This is cool. He referring people. Wasn't he an European? A European, something like that. Wasn't he a radical? I've never read him. He was a radical. Mildred fiddled with the telephone. You don't expect me to call Captain Butty, do you? You must don't shout. I wasn't shouting. He was up in the bed suddenly and raised and flushed, shaking. The parlor roared in the hot air. I can't call him. I can't tell him I'm sick. Why? Because you're afraid, he thought. A child feigning illness, afraid to call because after a moment's discussion the conversation would be over. Would run. So yes, Captain, I am feeling better already. I'll be in 10 o'clock tonight. You are not sick, said Mildred. Montag fell back in bed. He reached under his pillow. The hidden book was still there. Oh my god, he's trying to read the book. Montag fell back. Okay. Mildred, how would it be if, well, maybe I quit my job a while? You want to give up everything after all these years of working because one night some woman and her books. You should have seen her, Millie. Oh, he calls her Millie. She is nothing to me. She shouldn't have had books. It was her responsibility. She should have thought of that. I hate her. She's got you going. Wait. Hello. She's got you going, and next thing you know, we'll be out. No house, no job, no nothing. Cool. Uh, okay. You weren't there, you didn't see, he said. There must be something in books, things we can't imagine. Okay, I'll keep this aside for a bit. To make a woman stay in a burning house, there must be something there. You don't say for nothing. She was simple minded, she was as rational as you and I, more so perhaps, and we burned her. That's water under the bridge. No, not water, fire. You ever seen a burned house? It smolders for days. Well, this fire will last me the rest of my life. God, I've been trying to put it out in my mind all night. I'm crazy with trying. You should have thought of that before becoming a fireman. Thought, he said. Was I given a choice? My grandfather, father were firemen. In my sleep, I ran after them. The parlor was playing a dance tune. So this is the day you go on the early shift, said Mildred. You should have gone 2 hours ago. I just noticed it's not just the woman that died, said Montag. Last night thought about all about the quotation I've used in the past 10 years. And I thought about books I owned for the first time. I realized that man behind each one of the books, a man had to think them up. That is good. A man had to take a long time to put them down on paper. That is correct. And I'd never even thought that thought before he got out of bed. It took some man a lifetime maybe to put some of his own thoughts down, looking around at the world and life. And then I came along in 2 minutes and boom, it's all over. Let me alone, said Mildred. I didn't do anything. Let you alone? That's all very well, but how can I leave myself alone? I didn't do anything. How long is it since you were really bothered about something important, about something real? We need not to be alone. We need to be really bothered once in a while. How long is it since you have been really bothered? Hey, this is good actually. You should be always or in a given period of time should be bothered about something really deep. And then he shut up, for he remembered last weekend two white stones staring up the ceiling and the pump snake with the probing eye and the two soft faced men with the cigarettes moving in their mouth when they talked. But that was another Mildred. That was a Mildred so deep inside this one and so bothered, really bothered, that the two women had never met. He turned away. Oh, this is crazy, man. How did he manage to write characters in this kind of world? Mildred said, well, now you have done it. Out front of the house, look who's there. I don't care. There's a phoenix car just driven up, and a man in a black shirt with an orange snake stitched to his arm up the front. Captain Betty, he said. Captain Betty. Montag did not move, but stood looking into the cold whiteness of the wall immediately before him. Go, let him in, will you? I tell him I'm sick. Tell him yourself. She ran a few steps this way, a few steps that, and stopped, eyes wide. With the front door speaker called her name softly, softly. Mrs. Montag. Mrs. Montag. Someone here. Mrs. Montag. Mrs. Montag. Someone's here. Fading. Mrs. Montag made sure the book was well hidden behind the cover pillow, climbed slowly back into the bed, arranged the cover over his knees and across his chest, half sitting in. After a while, Mildred moved and went out of the room, and Captain Betty strolled in, his hand in his pocket, shut the relatives upset Betty. Relatives is a serious series, like a program on TV. Everybody knows it. Betty looking around at everything except Montag and his wife. This time Mildred ran. The yammering word stopped, yelling at the pal. In the pal cabin, sat down in the most comfortable chair with a peaceful look on his ruddy face. Time to prepare for the light. His brass pipe and puff a great cloud. Had come and said, "How the sick man is? How do you guess?" But he smiled as the candy pink it's, and the tiny candy whiteness of his teeth. You were going to Berlin for a night off. Doug sat in bed. "Well," said Betty, "take the night off." He examined his eternal mags, was the lid current and 1 million lights in his lighter, and began to strike the chemical match strictly. Blow out. Strike, blow out. Speak a few words, blow out. He looked at the flame, he blew. He knew. He looked at the smoke. "Well, will you be well? Tomorrow, the next day, maybe. First of the week." But he puffed his pipe. Every 5 minutes on a rotor hits this. They only need to stand to know how the wheel runs. Need to know the history of our profession. They don't feed it like that, like they used to. Damn sure. Puff. Only 5 chiefs remember it now. Puff. I'll let you on it. Mildred fidgeted. Fidgeted. He took a full time to settle himself and think back what he wanted to say. "When did you all start?" you ask. "This job of ours, how did it come about? Where, when?" "Well, I'd say it really got started around about a thing called the Civil War." Oh my god, he's gonna tell him the story. Civil War. I think I'll read later. I have to work also tomorrow. I'm at 71. I'll read it in one more setting, maybe tomorrow. I might not stream it. I'll do a review of this thing. I love this book. Peace out. Adios, amigos.